All right, so welcome to the CSbois podcast. This is going to be our first podcast of our channel. We're not really sure what we're doing, so we're just kind of gonna wing it. And today we'll be talking about upper divs that you can take as a CS major if you go to the college in the United States. I'm not sure how this applies to other countries, but we're just going to be talking about that. All right.
I think the upper divs applies to a lot of other countries as well. It's not just US.
Yeah.
So,
You wanna introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, we're doing that. Okay. Who wants to go first? I guess I should go first because I'm the host. Okay. So my name's Juan Andreas. I went to a 4-year college, UC Santa Cruz in Santa Cruz, California, as a CS major. I'm currently a data engineer at some advertising or some ad tech company located in Chicago. And should we talk about our salaries?
It's too far.
Too far? Okay. So it took me about 3 months after graduation to get the job.
Yeah, we're gonna have a podcast later. They'll talk about career, definitely.
Of course. Who's next?
You want to cue me, or are you just gonna blankly stare at you? It's fine. It's fine. I can talk.
Yeah, Edward, go.
Okay. Hi, my name is Edward. I also graduated from UCSC, and actually 1 year later than them. So I was not 1 year later, 1 year earlier than them. So I was class of 2018, and I'm in the Bay Area right now, software engineer. Some startups. And with that, our last guest slash host, not guest, right? It's a host. Our last host, Egan. What's up? How are you, Egan? I heard you is working from Indonesia right now. How has that been? Huh?
it's been pretty exciting. Been able to group up with my family for it's been like months since I met with them. Like not only my family but my big family. Like
Not
with
your
my
family, but your
great-grandmother.
big family. I see.
Yeah, like my grandmother,
Like
like from
relatives, you mean?
my relatives, yeah, like from both sides and stuff. Yeah, like we did like Zoom calls and the like. But
What? Why don't you start introducing yourself like we and Juan
yeah,
introduce ourselves, right?
Yeah, who are you, Egan?
my name is Egan. Uh, it's such a coincidence because I also graduated in UC Santa Cruz for 4 years.
Damn, I wonder how we know each other. Fuck, dude.
I also studied computer science. Um, yeah, and I graduated just last year. It's like not really last year, but like I don't know, like 8 months ago or something.
Class of
Uh,
2019.
class of 2019, yeah. And I'm currently a full stack engineer. That's like the official job title, at least. Uh, yeah.
I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but we're basically doing this podcast as a way to target maybe students or people that are starting early in their computer science degree and career. And we're basically just going to be talking about a series of topics that might be helpful. And these are all experiences that we've been through. And today we're going to be talking about upper division classes that we've taken and how maybe you could bounce some ideas off this podcast to maybe hopefully implement in whatever classes that you're taking in the future. So what should we talk about first?
I think let's just jump straight in, right? I was thinking maybe we can start our going over like what our first quarter I'll say junior year. Okay, let me ask you this though, because I actually am transfer. I'm a transfer. For those who don't know, transfer is basically for your university, usually 4 years. But as a transfer student, you actually study your first 2 year at a community college. Usually, you can study longer, and then later on you transfer to like a UC or some other university, non-community college that actually offers bachelor's degree, right?
Right.
So to me, a lower divs, upper divs doesn't really matter because you can't really take upper divs at a community college, and you can't really, and I really don't need to take any lower divs at a UC.
Mm.
Do you
I mean,
guys?
did you take any computer science related courses, or
I
did you
did,
just
I did. There are lower divs computer science course, right? But my
did that fulfill any of the lower divs in?
yes, yes, yes. But my question to you guys is, I'm talking about like this 2 and 3 years gap, right? Can you guys actually start taking upper divs in like a second year?
Mm,
Or do you have to
that's
like
gonna
declare a major first?
depend on what classes you fulfilled already, because a lot of upper divs they have prerequisites, and
So as long as you have the prereq done.
yeah.
It,
And I'm sure that the administration probably wants to prioritize those classes to, those who declared their majors and maybe like graduating seniors. So unless the administrator like approves or there's enough space in the class, they'll probably let you take it. I don't see why not.
And these prerequisite classes, it's not only prerequisite classes that you took from the university. And what I mean by that is like if you're like say you took an AP system in your high school, like that could easily transfer as credits
Mm.
to the university, and like you can uh, I mean, you can use those classes to accelerate, and so it's pretty possible for you to be able to take upper divs in your second year.
Yeah.
ah, I see. I see.
Yeah, but my school didn't have any computer science courses. And if there were, I would have failed the AP exams anyway.
You mean your high school didn't have any computer science course?
Yeah.
Mine actually did, but save that for next time.
All right. Well,
Okay, so with that said, what is you guys' first upper divs class at UCSC,
um,
obviously?
I think for most CS majors, it's going to be CS 101, right? I think UCSC changed the way that they name courses. So now it's like computer science engineering. They kind of like combine CS and CE together. So I don't know if it's the same like numbered code name for the class, but yeah, CS 101 is how I always consider that it's like a, what is it? Like a key to every other upper divs, basically.
Yeah, that's also like a prereq for a lot of other upper div class.
Yeah, it's like the gateway upper div.
So what's CS 101? Like what do you learn in CS 101?
You took it.
No,
As if you don't know the answer to that questions.
no, I'm just like directing the conversation.
Right. Yeah, well, in CS 101, it's actually.
Dude.
Wait, I
Oh,
actually
that's fine.
forgot the course name. What is it? It's Intro
Is
to
abstract data type. Do you even have your transcript out? Hello?
Dude, I'm like scrolling through it right now. I forgot when I took it.
Yeah, I actually took it junior first quarter because
Yeah,
that was my first quarter after transferring. So and I just took that out of the way.
Yeah. So I took that course 2017 winter quarter. Yeah, CMPS 101 abstract data types.
2017 winter, which is what, your sophomore year?
I think so, yeah, sophomore year.
I think if we speak in terms of like sophomore, junior, that'll be better than like which year, because
Okay, yeah. Freshman, sophomore, yeah. So my 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 second quarter of my sophomore year, or my
damn,
second
that's
trimester.
crazy.
Is that early? It's not early, is it?
What about you, Egan? When did you take that?
I took it in the first quarter of my second year. I think. Let me double check.
Damn, that's early.
Um,
That's crazy. That's crazy to
it's,
think that I had had the chance only have the chance to take it like on my third year.
Right. So abstract data types, right? What do you guys remember from it? I barely remember shit. I think for me, it was it implement data structures in Java, and then our professor was like, okay, now do it in C. And then we also learn about like time complexity analysis, right?
There are
yeah.
definitely some big O's there. I don't
Yeah,
quite remember the data type part, even though the even though the title
right.
says abstract data type.
I think well, one of the assignments were creating a matrix data type, and you had to do like a bunch of matrix computations. So like matrix addition, matrix multiplication, and I think that was the hardest assignment of that class, where a lot of people sort of lost sleep over it,
I
like me.
do remember there is one thing I want to share though, because again I was transferring from CC. This class is the first class I have to come in contact with Linux system. You guys probably don't, because maybe like your lower diffs you already have like you already need to use like command lines and stuff. Man, but I remember, man, just not knowing what CDLS is.
Really?
Yeah, and also have to you have to get a working Linux box running, right? And during that time I only have Windows machines, right? And I also don't know there's lab that I can use, like the school there's like computer lab that I can use that has
No,
Linux.
every student has their own server that they can SSH into, right? Did you know
The,
that? You can
I don't
SSH
think I don't
into.
think during that time, no.
Oh, okay.
So
Maybe
I
maybe you took
was,
it a.
and I
No,
don't even think the professor told me about that, which is strange. But anyway,
yeah, like you can host your own like personal website on
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I later on know about it, but
Yeah.
man, I remember I was trying to get like the Ubuntu subsystem on my Windows, and it was not very pleasant.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
It's weird how it works in our school. Is that we never directly learn like like the Unix system or like any like version control like Git and stuff. Like it's always like related to the labs that's part of our class. So we never really directly
There
learn it from
there is a
the
class
main
though.
content of the class itself.
Sorry, cut you off there. There is a class
Yeah.
at my CC that teaches Linux. I don't know what it is about, but I'm sure if I had taken that class, I would have been better off at Linux, using Linux, when I transferred.
Right.
But yes, I do agree with you. School don't really teach you how to use Linux, how to use, version system, how to get. What else
Yeah.
about this class?
So I think one of the major topics of uh, this class is related to graph theory. Like I think this
Mm.
is the class where we first learn about
Yeah.
DFS and DFS,
Yeah.
and like how like the specific ways you traverse a graph and its use cases.
Right.
Uh,
Mm,
yeah, and it's also like how you implement a graph, right? Because there's like multiple ways to do it. I
Mhm.
I don't completely remember like all the different ways, but
I
No,
do.
no, I definitely do remember that first search,
Yeah.
breadth first search. Yeah.
Right.
Well, the way you implement it and what data structure you use, one of the recommended ways was using an adjacency matrix. So for each node, there's like a list that contains each of the nodes that it's adjacent to. Yeah, I think that's the most common way. It's just using adjacency matrix.
Right.
Because yeah, how else would you contain all the neighbors of the node?
Okay. Well, we want to move on to the next one.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. The second upper div that I took was computational models for me, CMPS 130. Yeah. So obviously, like everybody, or anyone, you don't have to follow the next logically larger number, right? And I recommend sort of not doing that because if you were to jump from 101 to 102,
which is what I did, by the way.
not a good idea unless you're really smart, and I was not. Because 102 is really hard. I got a 6% on my midterm in that class. And I think like so did like 50% of the entire class.
You want to talk about 102 first?
Oh yeah, sure. Let's talk about
Okay,
102.
so I took 102, which is intro to algorithm analysis, which is like the core course in analyzing algorithm.
Right.
And I took
it's basically just leak code, but like Google level leak code, and you have to do proofs and like big O analysis too, or runtime analysis.
So I took it second quarter in junior year. I took it with a really hard professor. Not only that, I also have 2 other upper divs that I took. And I failed the class. I failed it.
Didn't you beg the professor to fail you?
Yes. So that was a so that was a story I was gonna share, right? I forgot what score I got, right? I'm pretty mediocre average in that class, and I thought I understand the material, but I just the sentence that you write just don't get me the points for some reason. It just didn't hit the like the core, or hit like the points that will grant you the score, right? So I got a C at the end. That's after curve, by the way. And I knew that I will be able to do better because I truly believe I understand material. Yeah, so what I ended up like emailing the professor if he can fail me so that I can retake it later.
Should have just retaken it. You don't have to fail.
No. You can't. If you have a C, you cannot retake it.
Oh, really?
Or you can retake it, but it won't replace the GPA, I believe. Something like that. There's a reason behind I did this, right? Yeah. I'm not dumb, by the way.
You sure about that?
And he was kind of surprised, I guess, but at the same time he did what I asked him to fail me. And later on I took it again. I took it in my senior year, and I got an A. And I was like, I don't know, I think I was like a top 10 in the class, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
But yes,
that was the story. The more you do, the better you get at it.
So what is this class about, Egan? I'm queuing you.
Based on what I remember, so in algorithm analysis, there are different what do you call it? Criteria? Right, like each algorithm problem can be categorized into a specific criteria. And depending on this criteria, there's like different sets of like patterns in which you can apply to find their solution.
Yeah,
Something like that.
dude, it's still in my mind, dude. That's how like imprinted into my brain is, right? There's four things we learn, four major things we learn. Divide and conquer.
Yeah.
There's a dynamic programming. That was the last one.
That was the second to last one, I believe.
That's all we remember.
And then there's a greedy algorithm, right? Is it greedy algorithm?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Basically brute force, kind of. Or not brute force, but like it's really cheap brute force.
Mm.
And then is that graph one?
There's a network flow, which
Yeah,
really
network flow. Right,
yeah,
network flow. Yeah, so four things. Divide and conquer, greedy. I think maybe greedy first or divide and conquer first. I can't remember. Network flow and dynamic programming.
Yeah.
And they are all very important. There's some that are more important than the others in terms of like when you're trying to find jobs, but they're all very important. And the exam that we have, or at least I have, is basically here's a problem, here's a lead code problem, right? Pretty much you have to identify which category that problem plays into, and prove what the runtime is, right? And you have to write a little bit of pseudocode. You have to write a little bit of not essay, but like explanations.
Yeah.
And for the proofs, it's not just like, oh yeah, there's two for loops in there, that's why it's n squared. It's more like you have to give actual discrete math. What is it? Yeah, discrete mathematics, right? Like actual induction. And
yes, induction. Yes, that is the term, right?
Yeah.
And there's like a also the reason why I kind of figured I did very well the second time I took this class is I already figured out all the patterns. There is a specific patterns that you kind of follow in your proof and in your induction, right? Induction is a strategy to prove things.
Yeah.
And I'm basically on cheat, right? The second time I took it.
You had an advantage.
And I had the advantage. That's right. But that class is, would you say is the hardest class, if not one of the harder class in upper div CS?
Yeah, I would say so.
What'd you say, Egan?
Just saying, it's like it's also important, like the reason like we divided like these problems into different paradigms, because like if you were to solve a specific problem with like a paradigm that's not really like as optimal with the like another one, like you're gonna like find like a really hard time to solve it.
Actually, it usually is pretty obvious that those won't work, right? It's usually pretty obvious that you will find one that work.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is probably one of the harder class in the computer science curriculum, and it's definitely one of the more helpful class.
Yeah, I think depending on what you do, most likely 102 or algorithm analysis is is the most important class you can take to prepare you for your job hunting after you graduate, because it's basically this, like 24/7.
Yep. With that,
Right.
what's the next one? We can go back to computational models, right? 130.
Yeah. Did we all take it? I don't think Egan took it. Did you? Yeah.
I did take it.
Yeah. I ended up tutoring that class.
When did you take it?
I took it with you. Remember?
Ah.
Emily was our tutor.
Ah. Right. That's. I didn't know Egan when we were taking that class. Not Egan,
Yeah.
Juan. Sorry. Whoops.
Well, I remember seeing you in there, but we weren't friends by then.
Yes.
We were friends in a different class.
Yeah, he knows of me. I don't think I know of him. I know of him.
I was like, I see this guy every day in tutoring. I'm like,
Yeah, I was too busy simping, you know what I mean?
Anyway,
Anyway,
should we talk about 130?
yes. We can briefly talk about it real quick, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess since I was a tutor, and I can just like give a quick 10-second rundown just to not leave Egan out too much. So basically, computational models, it was a lot about finite state machines. And the entire class was like, you were given a string, like a word or something. You give it to a finite state machine, and you determine if that string is basically like consumable and valid with your state machine. And it ranges from covering topics such as, was it DFAs, deterministic finite state machines, finite automata, whatever, non-deterministic, and then you even learn some like regular expressions in there. What else? Something called the pumping lemma.
Or isn't it pigeonhole principle is also in there?
Pigeonhole principle. I mean, we learned that in discrete math, but yeah, and then eventually it turns up to Turing machines. Right?
Yeah, something like Turing complete, not complete, like NP problem. I remember briefly there's something we didn't get quizzed on it, right? I don't think it was in the curriculum, but there were definitely touched on.
There were a few questions. I think on the final it was like 30 pages or something, and everybody was complaining about it. I thought it was a good test.
Yeah, never mind. I'm just looking at the description. It says P and NP questions, Turing machines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, what do you think is the most useful thing in that class? I would say probably just realizing regular expressions and DFA. Yeah. That was like mind-blowing for me.
Yeah. They're the exact same thing, basically. But yeah, honestly, in terms of coding in the industry, you don't really need to worry about finite state machines because I've never dealt with them yet. But I
have actually seen a real life kind of use case
for a finite.
Yeah, it's for DFA. It's actually what we call a flowchart.
Yeah, it's exactly a flowchart.
I was at a hackerspace in San Francisco, right? And then they have something about something like their elevator is not working properly, something, and they have a flowchart essentially, or DFA on in the elevator saying like, if you're stuck, do this. If that doesn't work, do that, right? It's basically that.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And like instead of yes or no, it's just like how many. It depends on how many letters there are in your language, or
it's just some condition for you to jump from one state to another.
Yeah. So basically, imagine a graph. You have bubbles connected to each other, right? If you can get from the start bubble to the end bubble, we call it the accept state. Is typically aligned with like two circles within each other. Then whatever string you put in is in the language of that finite state machine. Yeah.
Yep, I remember now. It's coming back now to draw those stupid little graphs.
Yeah.
It's actually very fun. Yeah.
I got paid like $20 an hour to tutor students. That's fun. They didn't rehire me because I was a bad tutor. Well, I wasn't a bad tutor. I misbehaved in the class where they teach tutors how to tutor. But in terms of tutoring skills, I was pretty good.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
What's our next one?
I mean, should we just go like numeric ordered? 102.
I think we should start from like the easier and stuff that you would take in the beginning of the upper divs and then later on.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, the difficulty of a class depends on which professor you take it with.
I would say there actually isn't an order, right?
Yeah.
Each class is fairly different from each other, and so you don't really, unless obviously there's a prerequisite, right? I would say you can probably take whatever. I'll use mine. So I took so for my second year of junior year, the second quarter of junior year, I took probability and computer architecture. So the code is CMP 107 and CMP 110. That was the only quarter I took 3 upper divs. Or not only quarter, but like that quarter is so tough. Because the classes is so hard. Which one did you take first, Egan? Did you take probability first or computer architecture first?
Ability first, I believe.
Which one?
I took architecture.
Architecture?
Ability.
When did you take architecture? Let's talk about architecture.
I took architecture pretty late, like in my last year class, because it doesn't really. Yeah, it was pretty impacted, and it's not really a prerequisite to the classes that I plan to take. So that's also the case with our school, is that uh, for our curriculum, there are prerequisite operatives that everyone needs to take, like no matter like what other elective operatives
It's
that
a
we want to
required
take in the
course
future.
for the CS curriculum.
Right. So for my like the year that I joined UC Santa Cruz, for some reason like finite state machines aren't part of the prerequisite.
Yeah.
So I chose not to take it. I don't know if that's the right choice or not, but
It actually was part of the course curriculum, but then they removed it.
I think you
right.
chose a later curriculum. I remember that too.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, and it's
they used to require physics, but then they like removed that also, which is super weird. But
Yeah, let's talk about computer architecture. I took that class second quarter of junior year because I just took CS12, which is basically computer architecture baby class of architecture, if that makes sense. It's a prerequisite for the computer architecture.
CE12?
Yeah, CE12, not CS12.
Yeah.
So I was like, just like, because, okay, here's the thing, right? I took CE12 first quarter and CS101 first quarter, and then I just took their, like, on steroid class on the second quarter. And that's what I meant, right? The CE110, the computer architecture, it's this what is the other called? CE12 is called Computer System and Assembly Language. It's basically that class but on steroid.
Yeah.
I did really well in this class, the computer architecture class, and I do really enjoy it.
Who did we have for CE110 or computer architecture? We had a different professor that came in, right?
Had a new professor, I believe.
Ooh, yeah.
Some professor name.
The German guy.
Let's not talk about names here, guys.
Yeah.
Mine was actually a Intel guy, I think. He was either working in Intel or Nvidia. I believe it's Intel. And he's very young, and I really do like him. And he says something like, "Oh, if you guys can get if you guys pass this course, you can basically get hired at Intel," something like that.
Really? I don't remember a professor that worked at Intel.
I think he only worked there for 1 quarter. Anyway, that's beside the point. What did we learn in this class?
Good question. I don't remember.
It's that I actually learned about parallelism, like anything that relates to like concurrency.
Didn't we learn about that in operating systems?
Really?
We did, but
we learned about like scheduling, right? Scheduling problems in computer architecture.
Yeah.
Did we talk about? Did we talk about like registers too? No. That was
one of the things that stuck to my mind the most is branch prediction.
Yeah.
Remember
That's
that
not.
stuff? Branch predictions?
Yeah.
It's like this
Remind me.
it's this like buffer thing where if you see it twice in a row, then you know like the second time, the third time, it's probably gonna be that choice. And that's what like apparently the chip manufacturer now, they use this like technology to say, oh, they can predict the future or be faster than the future or something like that. And that's what they meant when they're designing a CPU, they can predict a future. That's basically what that was.
Mm.
And paging, right? That's also very important. Memory.
Yeah.
Virtual memories.
Did we do any programming assignment in that class?
No. From what I remember, it was mostly on paper. Like we wrote assembly code on paper. Yeah, I don't think we did use some sort of like studio for assembly language. I forgot what we
I don't think I have to write any code for that class.
Yeah, we had a different professor, so
That's true.
yeah. A lot of our homework was writing code on paper and then turning it in, I think.
I have to write some sort of pseudocode, but not actually something that I need to compile and run.
Oh yeah. I mean, we didn't compile and run it. We didn't test it really. We just
So you don't actually get a lab, right? No lab.
Not from what I remember.
Yeah, no lab.
Yeah, I think one of the last assignments was a lab, but yeah, don't count me on that. It might be different from what it is now.
Yeah, so basically, oh, I remember ALU, right? They're like the little gates, arithmetic logic unit. That's like that's kind of actually CE12. That's like the baby class, but again, it's basically that class on steroid.
I cower in fear whenever I hear low-level terms.
I do like lower level stuff, I must say. I was almost gonna be a CE major, but that's another story.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's talk about probability stats. CMP
Oh my
107.
That class was hard, man.
That was very hard.
Yes. It was basically, for any upcoming students, they're like, oh yeah, I've taken statistics, right? Combinations, permutations. Yeah, we use calculus in this class. So that makes it about 10 to 20 times harder, in my opinion. A lot of things did not make sense. And the lectures were pretty dry too, so that didn't help. That's my experience with it.
Yeah, no, it was super dry.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Did we all have the same professor?
I think so.
We did.
We're not going to name any names, but I mean, I'm not even sure if he still teaches there.
He's teaching there. My brother's currently taking him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I spoke too soon.
He's still teaching 2018 and 2019.
Is it still the same style of copy pasting a paragraph onto a slide and reading off of it?
Pretty much.
I hope we don't get any people in trouble here, but I would say here's my thought of it. I would say if you get it, you will probably get it really fast.
Yeah.
But if you don't get that stuff, man, you're gonna have a rough time.
Yeah.
I would say probably IQ plays a big role in this class.
Yeah. Is it going to affect your future? I wouldn't worry about it unless you're trying to go into machine learning.
Yeah, if you're a data scientist, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then maybe.
If you can't do that, either keep trying or I don't know, give up.
Yeah, I got a B plus in that class. It wasn't even.
Yeah, I think what did I get? Let me see.
I think it was like hugely curved too.
Oh, I got an A in that class somehow.
Oh, nice. Rub it in.
I mean, the thing was you're able to collaborate with people in that class, so that made it a lot better.
I do remember the policy of homework in that class.
Oh yeah, wasn't? Should we talk about that?
I think we should. I think we
Yeah.
should.
All right. So I think that the policy was the homework was optional, but like you should do it, or else you can't pass the tests, which are not optional. Attendance isn't optional either. So basically, it's like your fate is in your hand until you take the exams. So if you have half a brain, you realize that this is a trick and you should really do the homework and attend class. Well, maybe not attend class, but maybe read the textbook if we even had a textbook. But yeah, I think most of the classes material you can substitute with doing the homework and going to sections and getting help from TAs and tutors. But I think a lot of people did not like that class, so I don't think there were a lot of tutors for it.
Yeah, with that said, we lost one of the hosts here. What happened to Egan? Yeah, I don't know. He
Yeah,
said
so he has a bad tendency to just disappear off the face of the earth. But yeah, we're just gonna keep continuing the.
he said a call and he just go MIA. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's got some family matters to just like there's some errands to attend or something.
Anyway,
yeah,
we're talking about machine learning, right?
We're talking about like computer architecture, I think.
No, we were just going to. You were saying like how we met.
Yeah,
remember?
yeah. How we fell in love in machine learning, basically.
I did not say that.
Oh, I did. But anyway, yeah, we started really talking in the machine learning course, which was for Edward. It was his last class that he took, and for me it was, I don't know, probably the year before I graduated. But yeah, what did we learn in that class?
Before I even talk about what I learned, right? This is elective, meaning I actually don't have to take this. I can take something else. In fact, I don't even think I need to take this class to graduate. I just took it for fun because, ML is a hot thing.
Yeah.
Right? And I even took it pass no pass because the professors knew, and
right.
I really don't want it to, mess up my GPA, though it doesn't really matter at the end.
Yeah. Let me see what I took. If I took it pass no pass, was it 142? Oh, I took it pass no pass too. I mean, I think I was pretty worried at the beginning of the course that if I took it pass no pass, I was probably going to fail because it's pretty hard.
Yeah,
There's a lot of calculus involved.
This class it's a weird class.
Yeah. So through our experience, what happened was we basically sort of just got thrown machine learning models every day, one after the other. For someone who was, kind of beginner in machine learning, like what is machine learning? That was like sort of our knowledge was machine learning. Getting thrown all these machine learning models, like maybe every 2 or 3 days of taking the class, it was pretty overwhelming in my experience.
Yeah, I'll say I struggle the most is the math part.
Right. Yeah.
There's just like equation or some model that is in the form of equation, like staring at your face, and you just have to go like decompose it essentially.
Yeah, like she should, or the professor would just like sort of write down a formula, and oftentimes it was really hard to follow and sort of like kind of determine where the professor sort of got terms in the formula. It was sort of hard to follow, but it wasn't. Yeah, the topic itself was pretty confusing. Yeah, that's my girlfriend.
Yeah. What did we learn? We learned this. I think there's like two major topics, right? There's a Bayesian learning, and then discriminative model. Something like that?
Beats me. I don't remember a thing from that I remember
What did we
K,
learn?
I remember the word K and N. That's it.
Yeah, KNN, that's one of the algorithms.
I shut
That's
my brain
easy.
off from the rest of it.
Yeah, I would say like the two like major like things that we're supposed to get out of the class, we already forgot, right? I think it was discriminative learning and Bayesian learning.
Yeah, that final was rough.
It was, oh, we passed it, but
Yeah, somehow.
it was a lot of just, I almost feel like we don't actually understand the stuff, right? We just sort of have to hard memorize it. We just have to memorize this stuff.
Yeah. I actually took 3 upper divisions that quarter.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise against taking 3 upper divs.
Yeah.
Major
Well,
upper divs.
Yeah. Like machine learning, I think in any major, is pretty difficult. I think you want to allocate a lot of time to that class. Case in point, my girlfriend is she's like marketing communications at Northwestern, so she's sort of like also learning machine learning, and I warned her about machine learning. It's pretty hard. So,
But if you're smart and you have, good math background,
yeah,
maybe.
if you're smart, you're passionate about machine learning, you have a background in it, you've done it before, you know what it is, I say go for it. Otherwise, if you don't have an interest, and definitely don't think that it's going to be an easy course, I would not recommend taking a heavy quarter, a heavy semester with machine learning classes.
I wish they have some sort of lower div
Yeah,
machine learning, right?
yeah.
But then
With
it's kind of fairly specific topic that I don't know if it makes sense to be a lower div class.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe in the future, maybe in 5 years, like everything is like freaking,
Yeah.
self-driving cars are flying in the skies or something like that, and maybe by then.
Maybe like a lower division with like I don't know, like linear regression or something like that. That would have been a lot helpful, but yeah.
All right, moving on. So I took machine learning fairly late, but let's go back to what happened earlier. Right. So computational model we talked about, I took it at junior last quarter.
Yeah.
And I also took compiler design. Did you take compiler design?
I did not.
So it was not a requirement for you.
It was, yeah, but it was one of the things that got dropped, which I think a lot of people were kind of thinking like, oh, that's kind of a stupid thing to drop, because it's it's pretty important.
Yes, it's supposed to be important.
Right.
So I can just talk through it real quick, right? Because I guess I'm not the only one that took it. It was a hard course. And if you learn the stuff, you'll be very well off with your... what I mean by well off, it's very helpful when you're become a software engineer. I did not learn it very well. I got a B+, but still, it was a very tough course. A lot of programming.
Yeah. I think the advantage of knowing, like I never took it, but I think the advantage of knowing compiler design is sort of, like I would assume that it helps you clear up understanding on how to optimize your code, because you might think that your code works and it looks efficient, but when it's compiled, it might not be.
Yes. And it's funny because I don't even write any. I write in Python mostly right now for my job, and I don't you don't even need you need an interpreter, but it does not require compiling.
Yeah.
But there's still some overlap in between, right?
Yeah.
There's probably still like one of the things we learn is an abstract syntax tree. And what does that mean is, let's say you have a line of code that says A equals B plus C, right? At compile time, what it does is basically it makes that code into a tree-like structure. So you have plus sign on top, and then the two little child, you have three. What did I say? A equals B plus C. Yeah. So you have plus sign at the top, and then B and C as the child. And then the tree goes on and on. Your program is gonna be big.
Yeah. I've seen like some homework from that class, and I think it included a lot of concepts from computational models too. Because I think
Yes.
I've seen some diagrams of like state machines too. So.
Yes, and I forgot most of it already. So.
Well, this goes to show that maybe things you learn in school, maybe you don't need it. But yeah, I mean, if you want to work for like a company like Amazon, I think they're widely known to use a lot of Java. So.
And I think also what happens was this class also have a second level, like a B, right? 101, or the course code is 104A. Yeah. There's a 104B.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened in that class, man.
Yeah. I don't know if it's required in any major, but
no, it's not required.
Yeah, but basically what our program did was they freed up a lot of requirements, so students are more free to take electives.
Or maybe they aren't pumping enough CS major out, and they have to lower the bar. It's
like, hey, let's drop some fundamentals and throw them all into machine learning.
Anyway, did you take any summer class?
Summer?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I wasted my summers not doing any internships, even though I tried looking for something. Yeah.
That's right. Internship. That's going to be another podcast topic that we'll be talking about.
Yeah.
I did take summer class in my junior year. So my junior to senior year, I did take some summer class, and I also had a part-time job that was on campus. That was like that was part of a research group, I guess.
Right.
But I took CMPS 115, which is Intro to Software Engineer.
Yeah.
Did you take that class?
I did. Yeah, I took the full software engineering series.
Right. So we should talk about that.
Yeah.
So you took 115, 116, 117, right?
Yeah. So
what did you do?
Yeah. Well, let me just give some background about what those 115 to 117 series. We call it like the 115 to 117 series. So basically,
it's three class, right?
It's three classes that you take sequentially, ideally sequentially, and they basically help you get in sync with or get in touch with external companies that are working with the university to essentially get some free labor out of you. Just kidding. So yeah, I would say it's probably one of the things that got me, interviews once I graduated, is because you can put that you work with a company on a project on your resume.
That's right. I remember now you were talking about. That's right.
Yeah, it's essentially like a mini internship, but you only get units out of it.
And you took it with Egan too.
I took it with Egan too. Yeah, we were in the same team somehow. But yeah, like for me, thanks to that, I learned some data engineering tools, and I could, kind of.
You actually do some like real software engineer stuff.
Yeah. Like we built features, we did PRs. It got approved because they probably didn't look at it. But it's like it's good exposure, I would say.
It's basically what, like in other major, like in computer engineering, they have something called a final year project.
Yeah.
Or like a capstone, right? They can fulfill their capstone.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's basically like I feel this is how I feel like, right? It's not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
The board just decided we need to lower the ballot. We need to pump some more, computer science major out. It's just gonna. So what I mean by that, you actually don't need to take 115, 116, 117 to fulfill your final year projects, aka capstone.
Yeah.
There's like literally course you can just take to fulfill the capstone requirement.
Yeah, you can even like negotiate some courses to be your capstone. As long as it's like a project-based course, I think it would count.
Yeah, so I only took 115. I only took like the first quarter one, so it does not fulfill capstone. It fulfills something else.
Yeah.
But not capstone. But for him, for Juan, 115, 116, 117 is basically his final year project.
Yeah. Well, I took 115, or like Intro to Software Engineering 1 in my junior year, and then I did the rest in my senior year, because typically the 115 class, or the Intro to Software Engineering 1, that course is a requirement that a lot of students just kind of take to get a requirement done, and then a lot of them drop. But for 116 and 117, which are software engineering 2 and 3, those two classes have to be taken sequentially. Like, I mean, of course, they're not going to come after you if you decide not to continue the series, but ideally they would want you to take those two courses sequentially, because you're going to be working with your sponsor or a company, continuously in those 2 quarters. So yeah, that's what I ended up doing. I took 115 one year and 116, 117 the next year with a company.
If I had known you would be working with company, I would have taken 116, 117.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just heard, like, word on the street is that it's one of the most useful classes that you can take to help get you a job. So that's why I took it.
Yeah. Real quick, for 115,
Yeah.
for me, right, you basically build projects, and for our case, you can basically build whatever you want in a group.
Yeah.
Can you do it? I don't think you can do it like one person group. I don't think you can do it. You have to do it in a group.
In 115, I don't remember if you can actually have a one-man team. I mean,
You have to have a group. For my professor, you have to have a group.
Yeah, I think it was like three students minimum or something like that.
Yeah. And yeah, you can basically do whatever you want.
Yeah, but even in 115, there were companies that you could work with if you chose, but otherwise you could make your own project.
Right, and also, not only do you have to build projects, there's also some coursework you have to do.
Yeah.
For mine, I'm not sure if it is the same as yours. For mine, you have to basically build a web app.
Right.
With Flask, not S.
Yeah. For me, it was a pretty bad experience, because I ended up doing some front-end work, and like I didn't know JavaScript at all. So I was like, at that point in time, I was like, oh, maybe I don't want to be a software engineer. I'm in my junior year, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be a software engineer. But yeah, that was because sometimes you could get into bad teams. You could have teammates that don't want to help you. You could have projects that are way out of your interest or way out of your scope in terms of like your skill set. But you can always try to keep taking the class, and maybe try to get into a different project. That's totally possible.
I will say though, the actual coursework, not the project itself, is actually in some way even better than the project for me.
Really?
Because for the project, there's no directions. When we learn. One of the things we also learn is like agile.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to practice that,
Right.
But then when you just have a bunch of, I don't want to say kids, but like inexperienced. I was that too. I was a kid too. You just have a bunch of inexperienced CS majors, don't even know how to work with Git.
Right.
You really can't get too far.
Yeah.
There's no directions.
Definitely.
You don't even know how to work with a database. Like I legit don't know how to work with data. What even is a database? Why do we need a
Yeah,
database? I
same.
can't
I think
answer that questions. AWS, GCP, forget about them. Never heard of them.
yeah. Yeah, I think one second, let me charge my laptop.
And the coursework actually make you have like almost like a legit, full stack application. You need to have a database, you have a
Oh yeah,
backend, and you
yeah,
have front end and display the backend.
right. With my assumption is that going into the course, I was hoping that, the teacher would kind of hold your hand through how to make a software, right? Instead of like, oh, you know, give your ideas for a project, put it on this like website that some student made as their like previous project. But basically, put your ideas on a project and see who wants to join your team. Here's some software engineering terminologies. Get to work. Right? The learning curve was extremely steep for me. Like that class, that was my first exposure to Git. So obviously, there are going to be some members in your team who are experienced with Git, and like don't be afraid to just like ask them to help you.
I remember. Sorry, this is a very interesting class, by the way.
Yeah.
You should take something like this if you have a chance. Even though I feel like you don't, that project doesn't like really take off per se.
Yeah.
Your other team is probably gonna be around the same situation as you, right? They don't know what they're doing. Maybe some people better, some people worse.
Yeah.
I remember. They were like talking about React, right? Angular. What is a stack called?
Angular.
React, Mongo. What is that called?
I don't know.
Like there's a LAMP stack, right? Linux, Apache. Something.
Yeah, like.
And then there's the mean stack, right? Mean stack.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Express, Angular, Mongo,
And Node.
and Node.js.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, what is that?
Yeah, my 115
Maybe it's just me.
My 115 project was Angular, and I was like, what? And like I tried using these frameworks, and I was like, why are there so many different like directories and files that just like show up out of nowhere? So that's why I cower in fear every time I see JavaScript or like front end projects. So I was like,
Yeah. That's the thing, right? You have to realize, like, we're coming from like a, like object oriented. We learn about object oriented programming. We program in Java, and then suddenly, boom, mean stack.
yeah, like
Boom, you're spinning up a server running a backend that is responding to
Yeah.
the front end that has a database at the back.
the transition is extremely rough from like Java C something dot Java your application to like
I don't remember anyone using Java in that class.
yeah.
Anyway, but I would suggest if you can take that class early, right? Like a sophomore year or even junior year. I would have taken it early.
Yeah, and maybe like if you end up hating it, take a break, do what I did, and then maybe you'll find interest in it again, and give it another shot. But yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's a waste of time. It's something to put on your resume, which is very valuable as a student who
I did put my piece of crap app on my resume. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure that helped you get into.
Well, what did you build? You built different things from 115 and 116, right?
Yeah,
that was basically two projects, right?
Yeah, 115 was just like a front end. I don't remember anything from that except that we had to play around with like this library in JavaScript that creates bubbles. But anyway,
you mean you didn't do anything? You were a free rider.
No. I tried. I was like I was one of the useless ones that tried to actually learn. Like there were two powerhouses in our team that just like did everything. Like I tried to help. Like I was in there until like midnight. I was trying to help them. They were like explaining things to me.
Yeah, emotional support.
I tried. Okay, it was. I started coding in college. All right, Give me a break. But yeah.
So it was a web project, like a front end kind of apps.
It was on Angular. Yeah, so hated it. Never touched JavaScript ever again. And then 116 and 117, I worked for like a data engineering project. We used Spark. Like we didn't really get too in depth with Spark. For those of you who don't know, it's basically just a distributed computing engine. So we tried to write Spark code to handle like massive amounts of data, to have and create an ETL pipeline, which is like extract, transform, and load.
Basically, do stuff with this data and put it over there.
Get big data, make it pretty, put it back to where you got it from. Basically,
or somewhere else.
Or somewhere else. In our case, it was S3, which was AWS, cool, something to put on my resume. But we were trying to basically make an ETL pipeline on test data that was like gigabytes large, and Spark, works well with data that is, several thousand times larger than that. So it was really time consuming, but it was something to put on my resume, and then it eventually got me a data engineering job today. So again, definitely not a useless class to take.
Did you know what I did in 115 as software engineer?
No.
Did it tell you?
You made a piece of crap.
We wrote an app. I can't believe I was programming in Swift.
Okay. Don't you need a MacBook for that?
I did. I bought one for that class.
Oh, really?
I bought a
I've never
piece of...
seen it.
No, I bought a piece of crap MacBook. You know how like the MacBook right now is like unibody?
Yeah.
I bought one of those that was all plastic. That was like... Do you know what they look like?
Oh yeah, it's like all white and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It barely handled the software.
Right.
At the end, I had to borrow my teammate's laptop.
How much did you pay for it?
It was like $100 or something like that, $200. I can't remember. It was cheap, right? That's what. I had no money.
Yeah.
Come on.
Did we have a Mac lab? We did, right? We had Mac computers.
I don't think it's gonna help. Because I actually don't know if you can put that stuff on Git, because it's not just code you're writing. It's also like little thing you need drag and drop.
Oh, right, yeah. And also, I think our school puts a lot of things on lock. Like you can't install some software without like admin.
Yeah, but in that class, I was like, it's actually very almost. It's almost too real, right? It's almost too real, as it's so close to how we are dealing with problems right now. Basically, you have user stories, right? That's literally what we learn. We have requirements, we have user stories.
Yeah.
And we have to figure out how to do it, right? And then we have to like, I remember there's like, we made a Chinese learning app, basically like Quizlet, kind of. And one of the features is we want to save where you left off from last time. Right, so like imagine you're going through Quizlet, you're learning vocabularies, right? And then say you log off, you want to log back on, you want to be in that same page essentially, or same vocabularies. And at that time we still don't have a storage, right? We can store it on locally. No, I messed it up. I mixed it with another. I think we ended up because later on I took another project took another class that's very similar. But basically we didn't even have a database. We have only local storage only on the. We just need to make a demo legit enough to get past the class, and that was it. Yeah. There's no backend. There's no database.
I mean, I wonder like if if you don't have like something to present, like how fuck would you be in the class, you know?
Oh yeah, there are people not presenting or not live demoing.
Yeah.
I don't know if, yeah, who knows what happens to those people.
I mean, yeah. Like I remember in that class, I was like, you know, the way we write user stories is, you know, it's a literal story, it's structured. Like, you know, as a consumer, I want feature in order to, you know,
Those are
purpose.
definitely useful.
Right. Yeah. I thought that was so stupid, but like now that I'm working in like a bigger company, it helps to sort of understand why I'm working on like a ticket, you know, like why am I building this feature? Like if I didn't have all this, like, you know, what I thought used to be stupid information, like I would be totally lost. And I think like I'm starting to see like how it's a lot more efficient to include those kinds of things there. So.
All right, moving on.
Yeah. Software series, take it. Definitely.
Yes, take it early to, yeah, I can't stress that enough. Take it early so that you can make your experience early to get an internship.
Yeah, definitely.
The next one I want to talk about is 111, Intro to Operating System.
Oh my god, my weakness.
I have a different professor than yours.
Yeah, I think
My
the professor for operating systems was notoriously hard, right, for you, but I had a new guy, so.
Really, it was not too hard. It was actually a very good course. It was also very important. I would say one of the more important, but one of the harder course.
Yeah. Yeah, I took it with Egan, who, you know, again, it's not here. Yeah, but for me, I didn't like that course. It was, again, like, it was a pretty dry lecture for me. Yeah, but it was really cool, but I don't think I absorbed it as well as most people did.
Just to throw a couple terms out there to remind you: concurrency primitives, deadlocks,
Yeah,
process synchronizations,
right.
resource allocations.
What was that example with the round table where they're
Yes.
relying on each other's chopsticks?
Yes.
Dependency problem.
Yeah, I'll see if I can put a picture here later for edit.
All right. Basically, you got, you know, say like 4 people sitting in a circular table, right? And they're all trying to eat noodles or something. And between each of them, they only have one chopstick, right? I hope there's like a shitty illustration in the middle. So.
I think you're gonna explain it wrong.
Really? It was the resource. The resource is a chopstick, and the processes are the, you know,
people.
Yeah, the people. They're basically waiting on each other's chopsticks, but since they only have one, then, like, you know, they'll remain in a deadlock. So, you know.
Yeah, it's basically like I need Juan's I don't know, I need Juan's chopsticks to work, but Juan is saying like, oh no, I need Edward's chopsticks to work, then we're stuck.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Right.
There's a lab.
Like mutex or something.
Yeah, mutex, mutual exclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot a lot of those, but fairly important.
Yeah, professional engineers. Yeah.
There's a lab though. There's a lab in this course, and that lab is pretty damn hard.
Yeah.
We had to. Mine is probably not as hard as yours, but we had to basically modify. It's called Pintos, right? It's just like a Stanford lab, and we have to modify an operating system to handle multi-threading, or not multi-threading, but like concurrency, to implement a different something with parallelism that we need to modify on an operating system level.
Yeah.
What did you do? What is your lab?
I don't remember most of my labs really, but ours were similar. We had to use a virtual machine to run FreeBSD, which was like a Linux operating system made by UC Berkeley, and we basically just had to like hack into it. I don't remember much of what we did, but it was frustrating because every time, you made changes to the OS, you could crash it. And I think I remember some kid posted a photo of their screen in like the class forum, like, why am I getting a blue screen? So like, and the professor was like, I hope you like modified OS in the virtual machine and not like your own. So yeah.
Wait, were you supposed to modify? I don't understand.
No, like you're not supposed to modify your own like operating system's code.
Oh, like his computer.
Yeah. So I think that's what he
Dude.
did. And like it kept crashing. So we were like, oh shit. But yeah, you're supposed to be you're supposed to, run a virtual machine and then install like FreeBSD and then,
I
sudo
can't, I can't believe someone modify their machine, dude.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Anyway,
Yeah,
was
so that's operating system for you. Intro to operating system.
Yeah, which was a requirement for us.
Yes, not an electives, an actual CS requirements.
Yeah. Actually, that's one of the classes that you can actually meet a lot of computer engineering students is in that class, I think.
So it's probably a requirement for them too.
I think they're eligible to take it as an elective option.
Electives, I see.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. I want to talk about Comparative Programming 112. I took it in the same quarter as my operating system.
Yeah, that class was a disaster.
Why do you say it's a disaster?
I mean, like it had a lot of like really old computer programming languages, and that class was notorious for something that I don't know if we should mention.
I would say it's interesting class.
Yeah.
I don't feel it's too helpful. Apparently, a lot of people, say it's helpful to have that class. I don't feel it's that helpful. I just feel like I'm like reading manuals all day trying to do things I want to do.
Yeah.
Right, trying to make the program work the way I want it work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we had to program in things like Scheme, which is functional programming, a lot of parentheses. I think we also had to implement like data compression in Perl. Was it?
There are 4 languages I had to learn, or 4 projects.
Yeah, like 4 to 5, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. What is this? Is this Smalltalk?
Smalltalk, yeah. Oh, I can't remember what that was like. Remember what that code looks like? I feel like if I just remember what the code looks like.
I remember Kerr and Kadur, dude. You know what that was?
Yeah, I think that's Scheme.
Yeah, that's Scheme. That was the best one.
Yeah, Kadur is 2 Kadurs.
There's a bunch of I remember there's like something like that.
Like our professor is like rumored to be as precise as a computer. So like he would get all the Kadurs right, all the parentheses right. Yeah. He's been teaching that class for I don't know how many years. Dinosaur.
Yep. Like if you know which professor we're talking about. Yeah. So in short, it's a class that you have to learn a lot of different weird language.
Yeah.
Not your really different from your regular Java, C++.
Yeah.
Really different.
The data compression assignment was interesting. I couldn't get my decompressor to work, but I could compress it. But like as soon as I use someone else's like decompression code and I use it on my like compressed like files, it works. So
yeah,
your
decompression algorithm is wrong, man.
Yeah, I think so. No, middle out.
Alright, moving on.
Anyway, yeah. I guess I could talk about one class that I didn't take.
Okay. I need to make a correction.
Oh yeah, sure.
I was mixing one of the class with the Intro to Software Engineer. In Intro to Software Engineer, you don't have to write an assignment. There's no assignment for learning front end, back end, and database. That was for another class. For 115, for Intro to Software Engineer, you just need to learn Agile. I think that was the class side of it. There's no assignment.
Was that like mobile apps that you're confused with?
I mixed it up with 183, which is a web application class.
Oh yeah, web apps. Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous that you can, make a web app or take one web app class for your capstone project.
Yes, that was my capstone project.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Maybe we should just finish it. I think that was the last one. Oh, there's one more, but let's talk about web application. You didn't take that class because you fulfilled your capstone.
Yeah, I heard that it's like, people were saying, you could teach yourself that. Yeah, I'm not interested.
So I did a web app. That was a course that I was talking about where it's also a project-based class. Hence, it's a capstone class. Or since it's a capstone class, it needs to be a hands-on, like not a lab, but like a project class.
Yeah.
So there's the course assignment, which is, I talked about it, Flask, MySQL, I think, and just a front end. We were making a to-do list. But for my project, I also made something Chinese related, and it's basically the same concept as my other. It's basically the same concept as my other class, except it's on website.
Okay.
I would say website is a little harder to code. Yeah, but then we also have a backend.
Yeah, to this day, I'm basically a backend engineer. I still don't know how to make a website.
Anyway, so in that class, we didn't use any. That was a class that was people were talking about like mean stack, MERN stack, like Angular, React, blah 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 blah. We didn't use any of that.
Yeah.
We barely know JavaScript, HTML, CSS. We barely know what those are. I have the same team, by the way. I have the same team as my software engineer class. Mm-hmm. Where do I even begin, man? Yeah, we did it. We did it. We literally handwrite pretty much every single line of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No framework. We have Express, and we have Express literally just like serving different endpoints, and then the like pages redirected into different endpoints. And we have Firebase as our sort of backend. We have a NoSQL database. Whatever their NoSQL Firestore or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then a little bit of authentications. It was hard. Authenticating stuff is hard. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Yeah, it sounds like you learned a ton of stuff from there.
I did learn a ton of stuff, but our thing is not that. It's hard. Full stack engineering, making authentication, all that stuff, HTTPS. Those things are hard. You need to know every single level how they work together.
Yeah, that's what Egan does.
And he's gone.
Again.
Yeah, that was it. I passed the class very easily, A+ scores. Learned a ton of stuff. Put that on my resume.
Yeah, I was always doubtful that people say like, you could learn web apps by yourself, but like, I don't know where I could, even start to learn that kind of stuff. I'm sure like you said that you didn't do it very well, but
it was working.
You learn how to do it wrong, which is like, arguably.
We don't know if it is. We don't know what is right. There's no one telling me. There was no one telling us what to do. We had to figure it out. We know what the heck is a router. What the heck is a React?
It's just as valuable, I think.
Okay, so I think we can move on from web application. The class is called Web Application 183.
Yeah. I want to talk about distributed systems.
I did not take that class, so you can.
Yeah. I think that this was probably like the most useful class that I've taken at my university. Distributed systems and everything. If you work for like a data company, you're probably going to be using HDFS. Like all of that is probably going to be like shielded from you, like, oh, you're just accessing a file system. But like it's important to sort of understand what goes behind all that stuff.
Is there a lab? What did you do in the lab?
Basically, we use Docker to spin up multiple servers. And basically,
You mean containers? People are gonna correct you. Docker spin up containers.
Right. Yeah. Correction. So we use Docker to spin up multiple containers to basically replicate how servers speak to each other. And we implemented like all these protocols that we learned in class, like how things stay available and consistent. So like, yeah, getting all our servers to be consistent was like one of the hardest parts of the project. It's like it's basically what you're learning is how to make your system consistent. Yeah, I think that was like pretty important class. Like I had the longest time understanding what APIs were. And in that class, it's all you do. It's just like you create API requests to your servers, and then you just put shit into it and propagate it, basically. Yeah, and the professor was great at like teaching, very like old school kind of professor. He would come into class without sandals on, just like bare feet. He would write on the board with chalk. One of the times he even took us to the beach and lectured at the beach. That was pretty cool. So definitely recommend taking that class.
Did you put that project on your resume?
I did. I think that there might be a new professor that teaches it, and I think she's like the guy's like student, basically.
Did you do well in that class?
I think I got a B. That class is hard. Let's see what I got. Yeah, I got a B plus.
I feel like we keep saying classes are hard. What are some of the easy class? I think that's what people are interested in, maybe.
Easy.
It's a perfect segue into my last course that I want to talk about on my transcript.
So mobile apps?
Nope. Is there a mobile app class?
Yeah. CMPS 121 mobile apps.
I did not take a mobile app because mobile is dead.
Yeah. Android.
I took CMPS 109, which is advanced programming.
Oh yeah, the C++ class, right?
This is the same professor as my operating system, and he's a very good professor. Hence, I took this class.
Oh.
This class, one of the last lab, is very, very interesting. Advanced programming, real quick, what did they teach? I need to look it up. I forgot.
Advanced programming? I have it open. An introduction to object-oriented techniques of software development, including data abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism, object-oriented design. Yeah, if you're like, interviewing pretty much anywhere, you sort of need to know all these like object-oriented concepts.
They're basically like a lower div slash 101, not on steroid, but like a little bit enhanced, or maybe like a refresher.
Yeah.
That being said, you should probably take it early, because there's not that much dependencies. There's not that much prerequisite.
Yeah.
So I want to share this, right? I want to share the lab that I really like. This is a C++ lab, and the assignment is that you have to sort a bunch of numbers. The professor has a leaderboard. It has a leaderboard, right? There will be packets. There will be web requests or something. UDP packet, I think, that is getting sent out. That was basically questions, and then you have to sort them, and whoever returned the first answer to the server, it will get displayed on a leaderboard, so you can see like, oh, okay, what's my runtime, you know, and how many people I'm beating.
Right. Yeah, I remember you doing that while we were working on machine learning.
Yeah, I passed the class, right? I reached there's like because everyone's algorithm is different.
Yeah.
So everyone's numbers, everyone's time is different, right? And then there's a threshold. If you reach above this threshold, right? If you can solve this question, you can sort these numbers below a certain seconds, you pass the lab.
Oh yeah.
If you can't beat that number, you're screwed.
Yeah.
That blows my mind, you know.
And you only had like C++ to work with, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it also needs to handle like networking stuff, like a UDP packages. I spent so much time on that. I could not beat other people. I thought of like every single possible way, like I can do this faster. And you know, at the end, like I think people at the top of the leaderboard actually comes and talk about their algorithm. My mind is blown. Like they're like, one of the problems is you need to spread your load fairly equally. If not, if let's say one of your load is like really long, whereas the other one is really short, then obviously you're bottleneck at that longest job, right? So how do you split that evenly? And I did not split. My algorithm is not even. It's not as even as the other guy.
Yeah, you probably need some sort of way to like balance.
I was too lazy. No, I was too lazy. I didn't optimize that little part.
That makes sense.
I think his algorithm is like, if some finishes, then it will like notify this guy, and then like have this guy give some number back to those that are idle to work on.
Probably just like to implement a load balancer, maybe.
Anyway, that was advanced programming.
Yeah, sounds cool. Yeah, there's a lot of electives that you can take when you're in college.
Is that it? Did we talk about every single one of them?
I mean, I took a lot of the AI concentrated track, you know.
What, did you take an AI class?
Yeah, I took all the AI machine learning courses.
All right, talk about it.
Yeah.
I only took machine learning, by the way.
Yeah. So what people sort of saw as like the AI series is like 140, which is, you know, Intro to Artificial Intelligence, and then 142, which is machine learning. Excuse me. CMPS 143, which is natural language processing.
That's right. So, I remember you talking about NLP.
Yeah, NLP. Very interesting. Yeah, so I took AI. Basically, the entire class was it was based off a project made by UC Berkeley. It was like their Pac-Man project, where you essentially just like have your agent solve a maze, and then every time it gets harder and harder, and then eventually you're going to have like adversaries, so like, you know, the little ghosts in the Pac-Man game, and you have to pretty much avoid them by doing like supervised learning and stuff like that. I didn't remember much later into the content much later in the course, but essentially, you know, an easy way to solve a maze is, you know, either breadth first search or depth first search. And then for natural language processing, it was, I think natural language processing was probably like another one of my favorite classes. We actually used some NLP concepts in a hackathon that we did, which we will, of course, talk about in a different podcast. But yeah, anyway, essentially you're given a corpus or a text, just like a text passage. You tokenize things in there. So tokenizing means, every word, treat it as like an object, and just like filter out all the unnecessary filler words like the, a, in, or things like that. And you just, the final project of that class was to make like a Q&A system where the assignment had a set of questions about a passage, and like these questions are sort of like insightful questions, like I don't know, maybe you're given a story about I don't know, Fred went to McDonald's to buy French fries for Edward because he loves Edward. And then the question would be like, why did Bob, I think I said Bob, why did Bob go to McDonald's, right? It's like insightful questions. And your task was basically to answer these like set of 50 questions. And your accuracy is based on like how correct your grammar is, how many words you have out of the expected answer of each question, and some other things that I don't remember. But you had to use like a bunch of data structures to answer that. I stayed up until like 6 a.m. working on the project by myself.
What do you think is most valuable, AI or NLP, that course? What do you learn is valuable, let's say?
Yeah, I would say that the AI courses, like as cool, as interesting as it may be, in terms of how it's going to impact your career, I would say artificial intelligence is not going to help you much. Like unless you're, of course, planning to have a master's in artificial intelligence or pursue a career in that, you're honestly not going to learn a lot of useful things.
I will say this though, I believe the year that I was gonna take AI, or I think my roommate took AI, they have a different policy. They you basically just need to work on a AI projects. That's it.
Okay, yeah, ours was different. Ours was it was a designated project.
Yeah, so like those of you that are out there, make sure you check with your professor, because I'm pretty sure they're changing their curriculum, especially now that this thing is hot.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like if you're interested in it, but most jobs out there that is in the AI field, they typically require masters, most often PhDs. So make sure when you go into like one of these, hot topics. I don't know if there's even a class out there about like blockchain or something.
I'm sure there are. There are.
Like make sure, like, gotta be realistic, right? You're not going to be an AI expert or a machine learning expert. You're not going to be a data scientist just from taking one class as an undergrad, right? You'll need to, devote maybe a few more years into it.
You're
so
probably
unless you're going to do that, like, I'd say maybe invest your time in something else.
I'm probably not going to get hired doing AI
like
stuff.
If you're interested in it, by all means go for it. But otherwise, think carefully.
Okay. Should we wait for Egan's back?
I think I'll die of old age.
He just messaged me. He just messaged the team.
A few moments later.
Okay, with that, these are all the pretty much upper divs that me and Joan took, and if you guys are interested about what Egan took that we didn't take, leave a comment down below, and we'll maybe update you when we found out where he is. But with that, if you found this podcast useful, or any topic that are interesting, let us know. Like the video, and stay safe out there during quarantine. This is a CSbois. Goodbye.
Smash the like button, subscribe.